Hi, I'm Ted Cunningham, the pastor of Woodland Hills Family Church in Branson, Missouri. And I just want to start by saying thank you to Churches by Daniels and for the heart that they have for pastors and church leaders and the desire they have to honor pastors and church leaders this time every year. One of my passions for the past 20 years has been to help couples achieve high levels of marital satisfaction, to enjoy life together. And one of the things that I've been learning over the last few years is that the business goals and the marriage goals that we have are often linked. And so I want to talk to you for just a few moments about helping your team win, the team you work with and for. Something Truett Cathy said years ago that I have never forgotten. He said, you can't expect people to do well in their business if they have problems at home. Truett understood that the factory floor and the family room are linked. The conference table and the kitchen table are linked. If you want people to succeed on your team at work, you need to help them succeed at home. And my passion being marital satisfaction, here's what we've learned about marital satisfaction. And during this difficult season, this season is the reason we're not meeting in person right now at an event hosted by Churches by Daniels. It's going to be down the road, I'm sure, but for now, we're doing this virtually. But here's what we've learned about marital satisfaction. It depends on factors and skills couples can do something about in any season or stage of life. I would say the same is true for job satisfaction, ministry satisfaction. It depends on factors and skills you can do something about in any season or stage of life. When I work with couples, I remind them at the very beginning of our time together, whether it's counseling or coaching, I can't do anything about the season or the stage that you're in. The stage of life, if you have a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 9-year-old, at the end of this video, you're still going to have a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 9-year-old. At the end of counseling, however old your kids were, or if you're an empty nester, whatever stage you're in, is still going to be true. I can't do anything about the season we're in right now. I can't do anything about this global pandemic. Personally, I can't accomplish anything for you. I can't get rid of that. I wish I could, because if I could, I would. But what we can do is talk about the factors and skills that lead to marital satisfaction, the factors and skills that lead to helping your team win. And the boardroom is connected to the family room. The factory floor is connected to the family room. I mean, if you want to succeed at work, you need to be succeeding at home. Truett's verse in Proverbs 22:1, if you Google Truett Cathy's name, you will see Proverbs 22:1 attached to it often. But it says, a good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold. And that's what I want to share with you just for a few minutes about this idea of being esteemed. It's the word honor. It's a word I learned about 20 years ago from my mentor, Dr. Gary Smalley. He taught me how to honor people, how to esteem people as highly valuable. He says, you want to succeed as a pastor, Ted, it starts at home with honoring Amy. It starts at home with honoring your children. If you become an expert at honor in the home, it will find its way into every other relationship in your life. To be esteemed. Honor esteems others as highly valuable. I want the people in my life to know they are valuable. I want the people at Woodland Hills Family Church to know they are valuable. I'm grateful. Churches by Daniels, this is why they're coming to you right now with this video. It's because they're honoring pastors and church leaders in this season. Honor begins with the Imago Dei, the image of God in man. The image of God is in every man, woman, boy, and girl, born and unborn. We get it from Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. The Imago Dei, the image of God in man. Honoring the image of God in man means we see every human being. Boy, it started with the pandemic. And then we got into the racial tension in our nation. and I preached on racism at our church back in June. And whether I'm preaching on racism, abortion, or immigration, the outline is always the same, and the outline always begins with the Imago Dei. Every human being personally autographed by God. That was Gary Smalley's favorite way of speaking about honor. To look at every human being, to look at your wife, to look at your husband, to look at your children, to look at your congregation members as personally autographed by God. This changes the way we behave toward people. It changes the way we speak when we're talking to people. Personally autographed by God and highly valuable. Gary put it this way: whether we realize it or not, the value we attach, honor, when we honor God, others, and ourselves, this greatly determines the success or failure of our relationships. Do people feel esteemed in your presence? I want to give you two very practical ways that you can live out honor in your life. Two very practical ways that you can live out honor at home and honor at work. Two very practical ways that you can raise the value of your family members and raise the value of those that you work with, those you work for, those you serve. And the very first one I learned, it had to be 17, 18 years ago now, from Dr. Smalley. It's called an honor list. I brought my honor list of Amy Cunningham, my wife. I have one for Amy. I have one for each of my children. We started them for our parents. We love to write these honor lists and to give them to family and friends on birthdays or anniversaries. But I remember the first time I saw an honor list, it was at Gary's house. I walked into his office, and he had sitting on the desk about 4 pages stapled together, and it said, all the reasons why Norma Smalley is highly valuable. I said, Gary, what is this? And it's the first time I heard the term honor list. He said, for years now, I've been gathering all the reasons why Norma is highly valuable. Because confirmation bias teaches us that we make decisions, and then we look for the evidence to back those decisions up. And I said, well, what do you do with this? He said, well, when we get into a fight or we have conflict, I will come into the office, I will pick up this list, and I will remind myself of her value. He said, I don't pick up the list and make that my time to be like, well, this isn't true anymore. And I don't edit the list. I remind myself of her value. And then he said, the value of this, to be able to speak this to her in front of family and friends. And I got to tell you something. That day, I took that idea and I ran with it. I know I say to Amy all the time, I love you. Is there anything I can do for you today? But keeping a running list of all the reasons why she is valuable, reading it to her in front of my children, Corinne and Carson. I've been doing the same thing with my parents. I remember on my mom's 64th birthday, I asked everybody in the family that was going to be, at the dinner, hey, prepare a list, just write down some reasons why Pama Bonnie is highly valuable. And I remember when we pulled the list out after dinner and my mom figured out what was going on, she didn't even hear the first line read, and she choked up. And she went, I can't stand it when you do this stuff. To be esteemed is greater than riches. To be esteemed is greater than silver or gold. I think one of the greatest tragedies at a funeral, I usually sit on the front row of the funerals here at our church, and I hear people step up, one family member after another, one friend after another, and they speak words of high value over the one who has been lost. As we're taking to heart the death of someone, they begin speaking these words of all that this family member or all that this friend meant to them. I often sit there as a pastor and think to myself, boy, I hope they didn't wait until now to say this. You want to speak words of high value, don't wait for a funeral. Say it now. Say it while that person is with you. To be esteemed is greater. I'm going to just share a few of them that I've written for Amy. Don't have time to give you the whole list, but it's fun and it's been growing. I actually was with a friend this morning and I asked him to come up with 5 for his wife. And of all the things we talked about in a coaching session, he left with that. He goes, I'm going to get those 5. And I said, and when you get those 5 and you feel good about them, I want you to speak them to her out loud. Don't just hand them to her, hand the notes to her in a note. Speak it to her. Speak these words of high value. Number one, Amy, I love your all or nothing passion. You do nothing halfway. When you start a project, she finishes it with gusto. My wife is a very passionate woman, and I love it. She is strong. And I love that because she gets her list and she accomplishes it. I never have to question whether or not she's going to finish her list. I love your 2 love languages. Amy has 2 love languages, acts of service and quality time, which means I serve her for long periods of time. Love it. I love your silent patriotic laugh. When Amy finds something funny, she places her hand over her heart, she leans forward, and nothing comes out. I love it. My goal every day with my wife is to get her to place her hand over her heart at least once, lean forward, and nothing comes out. I love your confidence. You're secure in who you are as a wife and a mom. This is one of your most attractive qualities. I love your adventurous culinary spirit. She is passionate about trying new things, and she has elevated my palate in the process. I have multiple pages and encourage you to start with your family at home. Watch what happens in the workplace when you begin honoring people at home, because that's where I want to go next. One of the things we love doing at Woodland Hills Family Church, and I encourage you to do this at your church with your staff. I do this when I'm invited to birthday parties and anniversaries. Even if I don't know the person all that well, I love moving from the honor list to something called the honor bombardment. If you want to take your staff meetings to the next level, start it. Give 10 minutes. And you're like, 10 minutes is a lot of time. 5 minutes. Like, spend some time with an honor bombardment. And what I do to start staff meetings, and again, it's not every staff meeting, but to start a staff meeting, I'll sit down with a piece of paper, and whoever's in the room, I write down everyone's name on a piece of paper, and then I tear it up and have each individual's name on one piece of paper. I put it in a cup, because obviously we don't have time to do this with every staff member, but over a few months, we can work through the entire staff. But I shake it up and I pull one name out, and the name today, Stephanie Watson. And we will spend 10 minutes going around the room, and every staff member will speak a word of high value over Stephanie. I have sat through countless honor bombardments, and I've never made it through one without seeing multiple people tearing up and choking up. Why? Because honor, to be esteemed, it's greater than silver or gold. It's greater than riches. Take a few minutes. You want to get new ideas flowing on staff? Start with an honor bombardment. You want greater loyalty from your staff members? Start with an honor bombardment. You want greater commitment from staff? Start with an honor bombardment. You want communication? Honor bombardment. Honor, esteeming one another as highly valuable. And that's why we're talking today virtually. Churches by Daniels has put this together and has invited us all together to tune in virtually. Hopefully, as I love to say to our church family that's not yet gathered back in the building, I long to see you again face to face. But until then, whether we're on campus or online, we can honor one another. We can esteem each other as highly valuable. Thank you for spending a few moments with us. Thank you for considering how you will be honoring your family and how that's going to translate into honoring those on your team and those in your church. I love you. God bless you through this trying season, and may you focus on the factors and skills that you can do something about in any season or stage of life.